Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City of Palatka Special Called City Commission meeting on November 16th, 2023. We're going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to start with the invocation led by Pastor Mulberry.
Good evening, everyone. Father, again, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you because your loving kindness and tender mercy has been good. We pray, oh God, that you will look on us this evening as we come together to share in this important session. Pray, dear God, that your wisdom will be upon our heads, that you will guide our hearts in every thought. We pray, God, that you will remind us of who you are and whose we are as it relates to this business. We pray now, God, that you will do what you do because your will be done and your kingdom come and your glory would be revealed. Praise you in advance because we thank you and all that you're doing for us. Continue to move us forward in Jesus' name we pray. Thank God. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Commissioner Baum, could you please pray?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Krantz, roll call, please.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Tammy McCaskill. Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Present.
Commissioner Will Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Rufus Borum.
Present.
Mayor Robbie Correa.
Present.
All members are present and accounted for. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Could you read the special call meeting notice, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Commissioners Tammy McCaskill, Justin Campbell, Will Jones, and Rufus Borum, you are hereby notified a special called meeting of the Palatka City Commission is hereby called to be held on November 16th, 2023 at 5 o'clock at City Hall, 201 North 2nd Street, Palatka, Florida, 32177. The purpose of the meeting is for discussion and direction regarding the moratorium on hiring and policy changes in the city manager vacancy. It is signed by Mayor Robbie Correa and Commissioner Justin Campbell.
Thank you. Before we open up public comments, I think hope and intent as a chair is to keep this meeting civil. And also it would be helpful for the sake of transparency from the last meeting if we knew what prompted some of the discussion of the last meeting. So hopefully we can share that after we get through public comments. For the general public comments, I'm going to open the floor to public comments. This is for general comments. If you have something specific public comment you want to discuss at those particular agenda items, you'll be called up at that point. I do have a couple of folks who want to make an open public comment. We will start with Cheryl Roach, please. Ms. Roach. Please give your name and address for the record. 3 minutes and no action will be taken on this item at this time.
Cheryl Roach, 312 Dodge Street. I'm here to support the city workers, regardless of their level of authority or job description. People who had to show up for work after a night of turmoil. People who are at the whim of elected city commissioners. People who work every day to keep the city of Palatka going, caring about the citizens who live here, trying to keep operations, hiring much needed support personnel and positive policy changes going while fearing that there may be no support for them to simply do their job. Knowing that their support from the mayor is undermined and criticized for some unknown objective that is simply creating a dysfunctional work environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Meehan.
Bernard Meehan, 815 Laurel Street. Madam Mayor, Commissioners, staff, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to look back where we were about a year, 54 weeks ago. I think majority of the panel was on the board. I'm looking around. I don't believe the lady is in attendance. But there was a dedication at the riverfront, November 5th, 2022. Mary Larson Brown. What was her quote that day? Mr. Campbell?
Oh, you can't do that, Mr.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're better together. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening with this dais. There's so much discontent amongst everybody right now. And it's not fair to anybody, to us as citizens, taxpayers. And then to reflect on some of the comments that came out Thursday night. And I'm not going to address anyone in particular, but we're moving too fast. I don't think we're moving fast at all. 14 months to hire a city manager, and we're still nowhere to be found. It almost took a year to hire a city attorney. We're 10 months into the new mayor's regime. Things are starting to move forward. Public Works has done an amazing job. I put in numerous requests, and now they're told that there might be a hiring freeze, and we're going to step back 2 to 3 years in time. For 3 years, the city never moved because of COVID. Things are starting to happen. They need to continue to happen. This hiring freeze and this stuff has got to stop. The budgets have been in place prior to the previous administration. Things need to move forward. And we all have to reflect back to what Mary Larson Brown said. We're better together. And unless we realize that, we're not going to move forward. It's time to cut the crap. Thank you.
Mr. Petrucci?
Joseph Petrucci, 905 Tierra Woods, Palatka, Florida. I want to say I watched the meeting online, and it's the responsibility of legislative bodies and executive leaders to set policy and to provide direction. It's a responsibility of the people you hire in these various departments to establish procedures and actions to carry out your policy. It's not typical or expected for you to be directly involved in those activities. The purpose of these type of meetings and workshops and the regular commission meetings is to inform you of what's going on and to get your approval for expenditures that are not already been approved in your budget. It's your responsibility to be informed. If you want to know what's going on, ask for a report. Don't freeze the city. I think that what Mr. Griffin has been doing, he's been doing really well, and the city attorney. I think that we have had some good things happening in the last 6 months for sure, and I think that you need to keep that in mind, that your responsibility is to set policy, set direction, tell them which way you want to go. It's their responsibility to execute to achieve your goals, not for you to necessarily be a bottleneck to be directly involved in every aspect of what they're doing. This freeze seems like that kind of an action. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Tasha Gibbons? Did you want to speak? You didn't check it.
I do want to speak, but can I wait?
Yes, you just checked general public comment. That's why I asked. So you want to speak specific to an agenda item. Is that correct? I'll just.
Yes.
Okay.
City manager vacancy.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vickers, Askew Vickers. Okay. Illegal Kitchens.
But I'll be glad to speak there.
Okay, you had already submitted cards for the specific agenda items. Do you want to speak on general public comments?
Allegro Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street. All I want to say is this. I want every one of you who spoke at the last meeting and did what you did, you know what you did. I will not repeat it. It's on tape. Everybody knows. I want you to think about the golden rule, and I want to think about you think about yourselves, not as commissioners. Remember when you were and are employees, how do you want your bosses to treat you? How did you want your bosses to treat you? I think every one of you want to observe the golden rule, and you want to be treated. You want to treat your employees, the city employees, the way you want to be treated, not the way you treated them. So think about the golden rule and think about when you were employees, and some of you still are, how do you want to be treated? Would you want to have been treated the way you were treated Thursday night? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for a general comment, not specific to agenda items? Shan, Ms. Puritan, sorry, come up, please, and give your name and address for the record. And will please fill out a card afterwards.
I did.
Oh, but it was for a specific agenda item.
Well, I checked 2 boxes.
Okay, come on, go ahead. Name and address for the record.
I was
Sorry,
being
I didn't see that.
efficient. I'm Shan Purinton. I live at 121 Pinal Church Road, Palatka, Florida, 32177. And I live right next door to where I grew up, and I've called Palatka home for over 60 years. I did go away to college. First, I want to say thank you very much for calling this special meeting. As commissioners and mayor, you have an important and challenging job, and I know you care about our community. Tonight, you have a chance for a redo and an opportunity to work together for the common good and to help our community to grow in positive ways. We can work together and cooperate so that everybody wins. I have been a volunteer for the city for over 15 years at the Waterworks Environmental Education Center and the River Center. In fact, I have my River Center shirt on. And yesterday at Waterworks, we had 25 visitors, and they came from St. Johns County. We often have people from Putnam County almost on a weekly basis. The St. Johns County students and staff were very impressed with what they saw and experienced. At the River Center yesterday, we had a couple come in who were staying at the Hampton Inn. They too were impressed and wanted to know what else can we do in this wonderful city. And I want to say it was when Wayne Smith was here, I think as editor at the newspaper, I took him and his wife as on a personal tour to the River Center, the Bronson Mulholland House, Waterworks, and the train station, which I love, because when you go in and see those models, it is so impressive. So we have so many things in the nature and the parks, etc., to be proud of. So I want to thank you again for calling this meeting and for the opportunity to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for general public input? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comments and we'll move on to the commission staff response. Commissioner Campbell, do you want to respond to any of the concerns or issues brought up?
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner Borland?
No comment.
Commissioner McCaskill?
Thank
Thank you. Any, without further ado, I think we'll move on to regular business. The first item is discussion direction regarding moratorium on hiring and policy changes.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, in your packet, there's a summary of all of the open positions. They are categorized so that you can see the status of those positions. We're going to take this in 2 parts. I'm going to request some additional guidance as it relates to the open positions and what the commission categorizes as essential and non-essential. At the last meeting, the draft minutes, the motion that was approved references a freeze on non-essential positions. So you have this information before you. Obviously, you referenced police and fire at the last meeting. I would ask you to consider other departments in that category as essential. And we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell? Any discussion? Okay. I can open up the floor before I go through the other commissioner, open the floor to public comment on 3A. We have some people that have submitted their card. Carl Flagg.
Good evening. Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Carl Flagg, 2601 Fairway Drive, Palatka, Florida, 32177. I am prepared to speak after the discussion and direction from our leaders. I think that they are the policy, you all are the policymakers. I want to know what's going on. Last week, when I reviewed, was unable to be at the meeting, I was definitely disappointed with the communication with the legislative, administrative, and legal departments of this city. And so my comments is going to be based upon, as you have on your agenda, discussion and direction. The tail can't wag the dog. We've got to have our leaders, our policymakers, those who again have been elected by us, all 5 of you all, must tell us what's going on, what your concerns are if it's not being handled appropriately. We just need to know, and we want to know. I don't believe in reacting, I believe in responding. And right now I'm in reaction mode, and that's not good. So rather than react, let me hear from our leaders, and then I can respond. I am here as a former leader, municipal leader, to assist in any way that I possibly can. I know that it's very important for our leaders to lead. I usually sit back because I don't believe in micromanaging, and I don't believe in second guessing you all, because this is your season to lead. But I need, first of all, process, protocol, procedures, parameters, priorities. I need to know that, because my telephone is ringing and I'm having to remind people that I'm a former mayor. I'm not the mayor now. Amen. I'm a former city commissioner. I'm not there, and I'm not going to second guess you all. I'm not going to badmouth you all. I'm not going to talk behind your back, but I will come up in this meeting and express myself so that all of us know precisely what's going on. I want to support every one of you all. I've known all of you all for years, but business is business. And right now, the business of the city is ugly.
Thank you. Please hold the clapping, please. We will then start, if that's the preference of the audience, we will start with. Okay, we're going to keep going with the public comments and come back. Excuse me?
Right?
Yes, we do. Yvette Jones.
Good evening, everyone. So I again want to say thank you for calling this meeting, because I feel that there needs to be some clarity to the events of last Thursday's meeting. It was eventful, and I feel like we as citizens need some clarity. So what I wanted to say is that it is not unusual for there to be a pause on hiring when we're looking for a city manager. I looked at the guide for recruiting a city administrator from both the League of Oregon Cities and the League of Arizona Cities. And in both of them, they reference that there's 2 key things that need to happen. You need to defer key actions when possible. That doesn't mean that the city business has to stop. It means that certain functions, it is okay to stop. So I'll read from this, and it's the same exact thing in the League of Oregon Cities recruiting guide, as well as the League of Arizona Cities guide. So it says that it is important, make sure that important projects and delivery of services continues to move ahead. However, they should defer major actions where possible until the new administrator is appointed. And it says, after all, to ensure effective administrative leadership in the future, it is desirable that the new administrator be involved in as many policy decisions as possible. And that just basically means that if you're going to have a new leader coming on, it's important that they help build their team. It's important that they help with those policies that they are going to have to live with on a long-term basis. I want to make sure that I don't go over my time. So that's what I wanted to say. And I know that last week, some of the comments were directed as, there's a lack of trust or there's a lack of confidence. I personally didn't feel that. I felt that there was a need or a want to have stability in the city, and just, not make policy changes that are going to affect this new city manager when he or she comes in. And so that's basically all I have to say. I don't think that the daily operations will cease. I think that if there's something important that needs to come to the commission, that it still has the ability to come to the commission. Basically what was the motion that was made is that non-essential. And I think it's good that we're here today to determine what non-essential means so that we cover all of our bases and not skip some of those positions that need to be considered. But that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Address for the record, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry, please.
Oh, address.
Yes, please.
Address is 701 Bronson Street in Palatka. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Ms. Davis? Annie Davis?
Good afternoon, Annie Davis, 420 Kirby Street, Palatka. I, like Reverend Flagg, want to reserve my comments until after we hear the driver of some of these decisions. As a former project director and project manager, a lot of what we're seeing seem to be reactions to some underlying issue. And until we can ever get to an underlying issue and get that addressed, we will continuously have conflict, miscommunication, and confusion, which ultimately will prevent everyone from doing their jobs. So again, I am looking to hear from the commission to understand some of the drivers, because I think that's what needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kitchens?
I probably, League Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. I probably should wait till the discussion and direction, but I'm concerned that the second motion last Thursday made by Mr. Jones was not in order. Under Robert's Rules of Order, you had a motion on the floor and it had passed 4-1. Mr. Jones made it to put a moratorium or freeze on all hiring policy changes and all negotiations within the city. After some discussion from staff, then Mr. Campbell very rightly made the motion over again and he changed it. But what should have happened was there should have been a motion to dismiss, a motion to reconsider. You all reconsider the motion that Mr. Jones made, vote against it, and then vote on the motion that Mr. Campbell made, which said non-essential services only and included police negotiation. I just wanted to point that out at this point. If I have a couple of minutes left, and I think I have about 1 minute left, I'll come back later and do my 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Svetlik?
Annie Svetlik, 511 North 3rd Street, Palatka, Florida, 32177. Years ago, I worked for the city as a professional toilet cleaner. Jonathan Griffith was my excellent boss. I cleaned City Hall, Mulholland House, Bryce Martin, Golf Course, the River Center, the toilets on the river. I also helped with rentals. And I hope that what you call non-essential, that this really is under essential, because it's on the website that you're looking for someone in this department. So that's basically what I want to say. And, I mean, it's just common logic to keep the jobs going that really need to be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for public comment on item A, agenda item A? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Commissioner Campbell? Discussion direction?
I will be as a leader, I pride myself on being integral to this community. That I would not have implemented anything that would have jeopardized the functionality of this city and the ability for work to be continued. Keep in mind, we just went through a budget process where there was 22 jobs that were created, in which, if you have been following our commission meetings, there were discrepancies, there were discussions, and there was disagreements on which jobs we wanted to see move forward. My decision was solely made because there was a lack of direction that was given. As a result, jobs that we did not agree upon was being funded to move forward with. Legislative aid, amongst others, were ones that were not. Legislative aid was a job that we requested as a commission, among other jobs that were not taken into consideration. So my support at that time was to make sure that we are able to come back to the table, as we are doing tonight, to have a discussion. Again, I would not have done anything to jeopardize the functionality of the city, and that is my statement.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones?
I defer my statement to after I hear what the interim city manager has to say, because this meeting was called and I want to understand what his rebuttal is.
Commissioner Borum?
I would like to defer my comment as well. I want to hear what the commission, what did the commission stop that was critical operation to the city operation? That's what I'm trying to understand, because I'm not to any understanding that the commission stopped anything that was critical. So I just want to try to process what I don't understand. So help me understand the decision that was made to put a pause on hiring until we get whoever is going to lead this city as an administrator. This is the most important position that you have in the city, a city administrator. And so as an elected body, we are to choose that individual. And so there's some things that's happening that I need to get a little bit of better understanding about what did we do to stop any operation, critical operations.
Thank you. Commissioner McCaskill?
And I think to piggyback off the question that Commissioner Borum just asked, we have an expert in the room, which would be the HR specialist, I think, who could probably help us answer those questions and give us some job descriptions and what she feel if are essential workers or not. So if we could hear from her and get some input from her, that'll help us some guided decisions here tonight.
Thank you. Would it be possible to read the motion of last week, last Thursday, just so we're all clear on what that motion was, since the community is here? Please, Miss. And in the meantime, Ms. Jones, could you come up, please? Did you hear me?
Okay, so I think you all probably have the list of the positions or vacancies that we currently have. According to an understanding that the positions of the fire and police were essential. I think what's needed here is directions on what's being determined non-essential. When we're looking at sanitation workers, when we're looking at just trainees and operators at the wastewater treatment plant, all of these positions are essential positions. We don't see them as essential until we start seeing sewage spills all over the city and nobody to work it. So these can be essential, and you can look at them as non-essential positions that we could freeze. So I think clarity on what
Let Ms. Jones finish,
Okay.
please, since we.
so what clarity of what the non-essential positions are, or what's not going to, we're not going to be able to move forward on. We know we were moving forward on police and fire, as far as I know. Those were not positions that were frozen. But from my understanding, there was nothing else that was really released because, or if there's clarity, or just tell me, or so I can put it down and I will be able to better understand.
Well, basically, we did allude to that. We did say anything public works associated. That means water, wastewater, water, sewer, it's the sanitation area, police, fire, janitorial services. All if it's to help clean environmental things, those are the things that we're talking about. But if you're looking for us to just specifically say job by job by job, I don't think that's fair to the commission to have to do that. Now, so getting back to what we were talking about, the major categories, but let me go down this road. The International City County Managers Association basically states the exact same thing almost that Ms. Jones stated, in terms of when you have an interim person filling the gap, keeping the wheels on the bus, making sure that the city operations continue to not make major policy changes, in the number of hires that somebody else is going to have to inherit. So it's well within the commission's purview to be able to make those calls. Look up ICCMA, make sure you look that up, because that's the thing that helped guide what we do. And let's go back to the 22 positions that was put in the budget. That was going to be $1.5 million. Okay. If you look at the amount of money that the city netted from its operations, we only had like $400 and some thousand more. So we're eating somewhere $800 and some thousand got to come from somewhere. So, but I just want to let you know, I voted against that. The other key thing is our property values increased over from 22 to 23. We were able to net a little bit more money. So we should not be spending faster than we get, because we're a fiscally constrained city. As it relates to trying to be fiscally responsible, I'm one of those people that's fiscally responsible. So while I'm going, I want to continue on. We just can't spend the money faster than we get it. And so what happens is those 22 positions came up to 1.5. We netted $430 something thousand. So where's that money going to come from? And it's going to increase taxes as it relates. If we kept that 6.4 flat meal, which I was asking for a reduction to try and get it down to at least half a meal or whatever, to kind of reduce the taxes on our people who we serve every day, and we can still deliver the same services. That's fiscally responsible, and we were doing nothing to try to usurp operations, that to my knowledge. And so I don't know why we have such uproar. I've been on this council since 2015. Came in, we had a city that could not balance its budget. And I was part of that, along with Commissioner Campbell and Mayor Hill. We came and we helped turn this city around with the other commissioners. And then now we got other commissioners just helping us to try to keep these things moving forward. but they used to borrow 400,000, 300,000 consecutive. Go back to 2014 and 2013 and 2014. Look in the CAFR. That's our annual budget that we get. Look into that, read that. They could not balance the budget. So I guarantee you, I'm not trying to stop any operations. I'm trying to keep this city moving forward and being fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Before we go on, can Ms. Krantz please read the motion so we're all clear on what the motion was Thursday?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion by Commissioner Jones for moratorium on hiring and policy changes, including union negotiations, until the city manager position has been confirmed, not including essential positions to the health and safety of the city, including police and fire. Second by Commissioner Borum. Motion passed 4-1 with Mayor Correa dissenting.
I believe there was another motion that was made after that. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, may I?
You may.
I believe there was another motion that was made there and after for me, where I made it to where we were able to continue negotiations. And then also within my motion, I made it to where if there were any job vacancies that were currently being negotiated, that those two resumed. It was not to completely stop any hiring. Essential, it was non-essential that we had already established, but I also made sure that I made mention that if it was a job that had already been in discussion or somebody was in the works of being hired, that too continue.
And was there a second motion that was?
There was a
It
second.
was a second.
There was a second motion. Motion by Commissioner Campbell to allow staff to continue with negotiations with the police benevolent union and bring it back to the commission. Second by Commissioner Borum. Motion passed unanimously. A pending motion for reconsideration as required by City Code Section 276 was not before the commission. Therefore, the results of the motion is invalid and the original vote of the commission freezing negotiations with the Police Benevolent Association is invalid. And I did note that Commissioner Campbell would like a report of all pending hires and negotiations.
So, but kind of fast, that's Sunny. So you said the first motion is invalid?
The second.
Second, okay. So go back up to my statement if you would, please. When it says, Mr. John indicated, go back to where it says, non-essential, but including law enforcement, fire, and anything that would health and safety. That would include trash collection and sanitation. So it was included in there. If it spelled it out, but I think most of us know that health and safety fall under sanitation. Just wanted to point that out there.
Thank you.
And I'll go ahead. I was gonna wait. But we're talking, I'm gonna tell you the reason about the negotiations. Here's why. Here's what I feel. We have a city attorney that been here less than a month, or maybe a month, and an interim city manager who never dealt with union negotiations. We as this commission did not know that we even had a police union. And the response to that was, you guys should be able to read it online or read it in the Palatka information, city of Palatka information. I think that's something that's important that we should have known, should have been given to us. Secondly, just last week, when we were coming to the meeting, we got notice that they were having a meeting on the 9th. Now, if in fact I'm wrong, the resume doesn't say anything about union negotiation. I'm not certain, and the role that Jonathan previously was in included him in any union negotiation. So that was my concern. So I'm letting the public know, putting a novice out to deal with something like that. I think if we go out and get engineers for building consultants that we have, why not go out and get someone who could take us through the negotiations with the police department and their union? That was my reasoning behind it. And when I say slow down, those are the reasons. And I think those are valid because ultimately we are responsible for those things. And that's not micromanaging. I think that's managing.
Thank you. Since you brought that issue up, I think that it's only fair that we let Mr. Griffith speak to whether he has experience in union negotiations or not. Mr. Griffith?
Commissioners, I've been involved in 2 previous union negotiations with the firefighter union. You do not have a union technically. They voted to form one, and we just completed a review of the contract terms that they presented. So I will tell you, I was under the impression that when the letter came in that they had voted to form a union, that was during the time or just before I was appointed at interim. I thought you were aware. I apologize for that. We can provide you, I think we already have provided you a full detail report on where we stand with those negotiations now. If you'd like. we can
Microphone,
place it
Mr.
on-
Griffith.
Yes, it's on. If you'd like, we can place it on your December 14th agenda for discussion direction on whom you'd like to lead the negotiations with the Police Benevolent Association.
I think
Thank you.
I have,
Yeah.
because I don't want to be labeled.
Well, no, let me, you have the floor. Please go ahead.
I'm done.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Commissioner McCaskill.
I just want to go back to the first motion that you read, and you were going a little fast. You said that it was passed unanimously? I thought she said unanimously. I should have misheard you. I'm sorry. The second one was, right?
The second one, yes.
But
Commissioner.
that's, you read the second one first, all right?
No, ma'am.
Oh, but it was passed unanimously.
The second one.
That was invalid. Yes, ma'am.
So as a point of clarity, if something, and Mayor, you serving as a parliamentarian of this board and familiarizing our attorney if she's with the Robert's Rules of Order, that information should have been brought to us at that time during that conversation so that we could have made it correct. And I feel to hear it now that it was invalid, I mean, it really doesn't sit well with me. And I think even with, and I understand the frustration of our community, but I ask that you all think about the frustration of us as elected officials that sit here and try to make sure that we do things decent and in order, that we be transparent, that we be timely, and that we do all of those things. But when we're getting bits and pieces of information, or when we are making policy rules and procedures and our governing, our mayor as a parliamentarian don't catch those things, or our attorney don't catch those things, we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm sure nobody that sits under the sound of my voice is perfect either. But I do ask that as we make these decisions as policyholders, now that we know that a motion is invalid, what are we standing on? Because I made the motion to make sure that we would be able to make sure that we can function, and to know that the motion that I made is invalid. Where does that leave us anyway? So it's not solely us, City of Palatka. We have a due diligence as a full body. And right now, where does that lead us? Because we're here having this conversation. Why are we having this conversation if the motion it's not even valid?
Understood completely, Commissioner Campbell, and I believe there's a very easy way to fix this right now. And that would be to make the motion now for reconsideration and go ahead and include that language about the police union and get it seconded and approved, and you'll be good.
So in order for us to move this forward in an effective and efficient manner, Sonny, could you state the motion that is invalid? Because I would like, first I would like to make a motion to reconsider.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition?
Nay.
Okay, Commissioner McCaskill.
I want to ask this question while we're talking about the motion being invalid. And you called, I think, the mayor and Commissioner Campbell, you called for this special meeting. At what point did we discover that the motion was invalid? And if we would not have been in this meeting, would we have been called in to make sure that we made things correct? At what point did our council realize this, as well as our interim city manager?
So this was as we were going through the minutes of the meeting, which just became available today. This has been difficult to negotiate this process, but yes, it's all been very fast.
At what time did you receive the minutes? Right before the meeting? Did you have time to call us and inform us prior to getting up here and us knowing now so that we can discuss this? Or, you know, how things usually happen when we find out things open on the dais. When did you find out that the motion was invalid?
I read over the draft minutes this afternoon, Commissioner.
About what time did you receive them? What time did you send out the minutes? If I may ask, Madam Mayor, what time did Sunny send them out?
I did not get an opportunity until fairly recently before this meeting.
Who determined that it was invalid?
So in consulting with the clerk, we went through the Roberts Rules of Order, and this was the procedure that should have been followed during the meeting. It should have been a motion for reconsideration.
So I have and I'm saying this only because I want the community who's in an uproar with us to take in consideration. There was a meeting there was a whole discussion that was supposed to be placed on one of our agendas about Robert's Rules of Order. And it was taken off. So if you are privy to the functions of Robert's Rules of Order as the parliamentarian of this group and as the city attorney who wanted to bring that to us, that should have been something that should have been caught. And again, I want the community to know this is a group effort. Of course, you all or the uproar would be against us, but that could have been something that we could have easily fixed at that time had it been caught. So as the uproar is with us, there should be an uproar with everyone. And so I wanted to bring that to the attention that we're here, we're going to get it corrected, and we want to let you all know, as I will let you know, I do not want to stop any functions in this city, but I want to make sure as we move forward that we hold each other accountable for our actions, right? And guess what? You all are here holding us accountable. So we want to be able to hold those. We have one hire. Our hire is the city manager. So we have to make sure that we do what we have to do to make sure that him as our hire does what he needs to do in that position. So my vote again came because of some discrepancies. And now there's even further discrepancies that we have to fix, and we're here to fix it. So again, Madam Mayor, I ask in order for us to move this forward so that we can fix this error that was not solely our error. This was also an error made on staff. Make sure that we get it correct. Let's move forward. Sonny, if you would state the motion that I made that night. I would like that to be the motion that stands tonight so that we can move forward.
Motion by Commissioner Campbell to allow staff to continue negotiations with the Police Benevolent Union and bring it back to the commission.
And also to that motion, I made it clear that if there are any jobs or any job vacancies that had been in negotiations or pending hires, that also continues.
And I second it.
And let's make sure we restate the whole motion, Ms. Krantz, just so everybody is clear before we move on. So there's no confusion.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm typing as we talk. Motion by Commissioner Campbell to allow staff to continue with negotiations with the Police Benevolent Association and bring it back to the commission. And if there are any jobs in negotiations, that those continue.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Borum.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Thank you.
Motion passed unanimously.
I didn't say it.
He didn't say, it was, he.
Oh,
yeah,
thank
didn't
you.
Say I was going to reiterate.
Mayor, commissioners, if I could, there's a second part to this discussion, and I'd like to just summarize my interpretation of that motion to make sure that we're on the same page. So I understand all essential to include public works jobs. It would not include jobs like a recreation attendant or a customer service clerk, things of that nature. I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page.
I just want to make sure that where we were with the jobs that we brought back out of that 22 that was cut, I want to know where we stand with those, because those were not jobs that we were moving forward with, but we as a commission deemed that they were something that we want as a whole. So that's why I asked for, at the last meeting, I asked for that list of jobs, where they stood, so that we know, because again, we requested a legislative aid. That was one that was cut by staff after giving the direction from the city commission, amongst other jobs.
So I took your request a little bit differently last time, and that's where this list came from, Commissioner. But by the end of the week, which is tomorrow, we can provide you an update on those 22 additional jobs and where they stand, if they're in development or if they've been advertised. Is that what you're requesting, sir?
Yes, because there's a tad bit of confusion on the behalf of jobs, because a lot of jobs have already been listed. And if anybody knows, I'm one that always makes sure that we reference what jobs are available. So some of the jobs that we see that are moving forward were not some of the jobs that were previously listed. There are jobs that came as a result of us having our budget workshop, going through all of those budget things. That's when now some of these jobs are coming available, when we had jobs that were long listed before that had no movement. So if we want to be a level of transparency, we're pushing something that's before us now, instead of us pushing jobs that we had for months, for years, that have been on the forefront that nobody's hired. So are those not essential? Are we not doing anything to push those jobs?
Well, sir.
So that's why my comment was to make sure that we look at it as a whole, to identify and not just to push what we think as of now. Push as a whole, because again, a lot of jobs that we're moving forward with the negotiations and moving forward with the advertisements are jobs that just got approved when the budget got approved.
I don't want to leave you with the impression that previous jobs that were vacant were not a priority. We have constant turnover and attrition in certain departments, and we have not put any of those long-standing jobs or vacancies on the back burner, so to speak. I do not want you to walk away, or the public to walk away, with that impression. Those jobs are important, and we do everything we can to fill those vacancies.
So what I want the public to understand, that where we are today are for jobs that were literally just created once the budget was finished. So how are they automatically now essential? A priority over jobs that we know was a priority before. So that's where the halt comes in. That's where my halt comes in, not against the hiring, not against that, but I want to make sure when I say halt, that's with jobs that are just got approved. That's where it comes in. So again, I want to make sure, as we have in this conversation, as we have a room, I wish we had this much at our meetings every time we have a meeting. But now that we're here, let's be open, let's be transparent, continue to be transparent so that they know why they are here. Just like Reverend Flagg, Mayor Flagg, former Mayor Flagg, his phone rang, my phone rang. The decisions that we made when I'm on my job, people come to me on my job about this. So again, I want to make sure that when we leave this meeting, when we leave this room, that there's a complete understanding that nobody wanted to bring a complete stop to the city of Palatka. There was a hiring freeze before. We didn't get this uproar. There was a hiring freeze before. We lost a person to St. Augustine over 50 cents because there was a hiring freeze in place. So again, is it just because of it now and who we have sitting? Let's be honest, y'all. We have to get this thing under control. Where there is a lack of transparency, where there is a lack of leadership, everybody can make their own interpretation of everything or what they want it to be. If there was anything that was left unsaid or we needed to bring clarity to, it should have been done then and not now.
Commissioner McCaskill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Respectfully, Jonathan, I thank you for answering questions that's related to hiring and job descriptions and doing the best you can at that. But again, we always have the HR specialist in the room who we rarely hear from. My question would be, When we decided to come up with this list, at any point, did we sit down and have a discussion with you and you all talk about what was considered essential or not? What positions would really halt or could possibly or potentially halt the city's operations, or did that even come up?
Okay.
What type of conversations did you all have about this list?
So
as it
for
relates to
a
what
couple
we're
of
talking
days, since all of this has taken place, I was out, sick, out of the office.
A couple of days?
Yeah, like Monday and
days
Tuesday.
ago?
Yes, Monday and Tuesday. So I came back Wednesday to compile and put together a list of the vacancies and everything that we had. From that point, since the meeting, with the only,
I like to say, put a list of vacancies together.
yes,
When you put the list of vacancies together, did you have a conversation with council and the interim city manager regarding what was considered essential positions?
no. So, and this is just my, if I, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Virginia. I was in Tallahassee yesterday, Commissioner. She was sick for the first 2 days. This is the first day we've seen one another.
That's my point.
Mm.
I would like to have been better prepared if we had not had these, you all had opportunity to talk. If she was out, I know that you were away for a conference. We could have been better prepared to have these conversations. It doesn't seem that we're prepared to move forward and give transparent answers and good directives to our citizens. I may be wrong, those are just this is my take on it.
Well, let Ms. Jones finish, please, too.
So if I may, out of the positions and vacancies that I compiled together, as a lot of these positions are not that were just in the budget that are considered to be moved forward now. 13 of the positions that we have currently that are advertised are positions that was already there. We are not hiring for them, they're advertised. We have one, and I'm just gonna give you a list. We have one candidate, is for our wastewater treatment plant. It's not a new position that we're waiting for orientation, which from our discussion tonight, we can move forward with that orientation. They've already been through everything else. From the discussion tonight, that would move forward. We have one for the customer service clerk, and the records clerk. That was a position that we already had. And we just wait, our offer letter has not been sent yet. So that's where that one. We have advertised with interviews for police, a water plant superintendent, a vehicle mechanic, which was a new position, which is at the Public Works Department, and a facilities laborer. And nothing else has been done with those. But all of those are new current positions that were not new, with the exception of that vehicle mechanic. So it's not the new positions that were just passed in this budget year that are being moved forward. These are old positions, and the advertised positions for firefighters and refuse collectors, as you know, street laborers, those are already current positions. And we have 13 vacancies there that are advertised, but we haven't had the employees the applicants to actually fill them yet. So out of the 27 that you all see listed, you can come at 22 of them are right there. The 5 that are not advertised is the police service aide. Okay, the legislative aide, which we did put together the job description for you guys review, to say that it was okay and was everything that you all were looking for in the aide before that position get advertised. The part-time recreation attendant, that's not essential. Because
You said that's not essential.
yeah, I would say it's a non-essential to not do now, as well as the assistant lineman in operations at the airport, which is a position that was filled and the guy left, and the administration at the operations assistant out there, because it's not ceasing anything for the community. So those positions, they're not advertised right now, and that's 5. The rest of the jobs are already current positions that are in place. They're not new positions that we established during the budget year. And some of them are at different phases. 13 of them are advertised and not even interviewed. We don't have the applicants. We haven't done anything with them yet. So there's a whole outline and a process here that The advertisement didn't stop. The only thing from the standpoint of the last meeting is the orientation didn't go forth on the one, an offer letter wasn't sent on the second one. And then we have whether or not we want to move forward with the police officer, we know that was not an issue there, which is 3 police officers, I think, that had been interviewed. And then the other 2 that the interviews in process, that ceased because we're looking at a facilities labor, which is, I would say, essential with getting everything fixed around the city that needs to be done. And the water plant superintendent that we interviewed, that just froze. Not that we do have an assistant there at the moment at the water plant. So those are positions there that we didn't, but nothing else has taken place. And the only thing I think was for clarity from my standpoint that I would like clarity, and I could annotate it down and make sure of what's essential from your standpoint and what's non-essential. I can tell you all day long what I feel is essential by looking at the day-to-day operations and going out visiting all of the different departments. So I can tell you what's essential because I hear the calls and I see the calls when trash don't get picked up. I hear the calls and see the calls when lift stations catch on fire because something's not working. So I can tell you that, but from your standpoint, since you all are the policymakers that say what's it going to be, is where I would just like to have directions and clarity so we'll all be on the same page as to what I think and I say is what you all are thinking and saying.
Commissioner Boyle.
Well, so again, I was just trying to understand from the meeting that we had last. I was to the understanding that the city came to a halt. That's what was described as it relates. So since last meeting to now, what came to a halt? That's what I need to understand.
Commissioner Borum, there's a second part to this discussion, which is the policy moratorium, and the city attorney is prepared to speak on all the implications, be it land use amendments, zoning amendments, and annexations that cannot proceed. But there is a number of things that can't proceed.
Here's what we talked about. We just said major policy changes. If you look at the International City and County Managers Association, it tells us how to move the city forward when you have an interim in place. That's very critical. It's crucial that people need to understand that. And so as a policymaker, I'm following policy. And what happened, I think things have been blown out of proportion, period. That's what has happened. There's nothing you can say that the commission did that halted city operations. There's nothing. If there was something, there should have been some conversation to say, okay, help us understand. You're stopping X, you're stopping Y, you're stopping Z. Help us understand. Don't wait weeks on end to say, okay, well, y'all stop city operations and then it's out in the public. The newspaper wrote it up that things halted. That's not true. Come on, let's be fair. Let's be fair.
Commissioner Borum, if I could speak as to what has halted in the policy silo. And I would love to get some guidance from the commissioners on how to proceed with this. And hopefully we can do that tonight so I can work with our planning staff to move forward. But one example is at the planning. So this just happened last week. So in the interim, just this past Tuesday, we had our planning board meeting. And one of the agenda items on that planning board meeting was the final decision. The planning board usually acts in an advisory capacity, making recommendations to the city commission, but sometimes they have the authority to make a final decision, which I've viewed as policy. I was erring on the side of making sure I was functioning within the confines of your motion. And so there was an agenda item for a preliminary plat approval for the Palatka Mall. They wanted to create out parcels on that preliminary plat approval. It would have been a final decision. In an abundance of caution, I advised that the planning board table that to the next meeting because of this motion. So that is an example. And if I can get some guidance so I can help our planning staff, I sure would appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, again, based on the motion that was made in the last meeting, was that already in process? Was it in process?
That was the first time it was on the agenda.
You mentioned that it was something that was already in process. That's what I understood.
No, that was the first time it was on the planning board agenda. So the way the motion read, it was a moratorium on policy changes. So if I can get some guidance, that would be great.
I understand, but we also mentioned that we weren't trying to stop any policy that was already, they've submitted their applications and you're trying to make a motion. So it was already in the pipeline. It's not something new that's coming before the planning board to act on. So that was already something that was in place.
An application had been made, and if that is your intent, if I could get a motion to that respect, that would be incredibly helpful to help have us.
It was made last week. It was made the other week when we said no, we weren't stopping anything that was already in place.
So the motion, I think that the confusion is we're talking about two different motions here, and the confusion that has now been brought to clarity as a result of this meeting. So in order for us to move forward, I make the motion, Mayor, if I may, because again, we are gonna beat this and I think it was just actually summarized in my last motion. If things were already in play, keep it going.
I second it. It was already in play.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition?
Nay.
Motion passed 4-1.
Mayor, Commissioners, we did have a party that was interested in annexing for water and sewer. They have not made application. They just reached out to me on Tuesday because they know me personally and they wanted to know what the process was. So under that hypothetical situation, was it your intent to not permit any new annexation, zoning applications or hookups for water and sewer?
That's not a policy change. I'm quite sure that you guys know what a change is versus completing what we had going on. And really, it's really a play on words right here. And that's what got us here today. And nobody don't want to really face it. But I said, and to be honest with you, I know people are upset, but I think they're upset for the wrong reason. And then we come up here and we change the way we really felt about the situation. Now, I got a question before we go to that. We keep jumping around because you mentioned about the employees. How many of those positions were exempt employees for the last 4 months? How many employees that we hired were exempt or salary employees? Because that's what really matters right now.
That we hired in the last, you said 4 months that were exempt?
Yes.
Employees? Would be our city attorney, our project manager. Those would be in the last 4 months. I think those are the only two exempt.
What can I say since
For
interim being interim?
Assistant superintendent at the water treatment plant.
Okay. So those are for the people to understand, really. Those were the jobs that we first, during the budget session, was cautious about and said we did not want to proceed, but they've already been hired anyway. I was not talking, I want to be clear because I made that motion, not to interfere with anything that's going to stop the city from functioning. I said that up here and I said it clear. So the play on words don't work with me. They probably, gonna get in the paper, gonna be different. I said that we need some stability, and with all these other jobs, you got 27 jobs. But what about the main job? City manager. That's what we need to hire for. So whether it's an HR or you can't get in it anymore because you were in the process before that kind of just backed us all the way up. So let's talk about what really happened here. That backed us up to where we are today. We're over here talking about stuff that, because we're pushing back on hiring. Okay, but what about that number one hire? We got one important hire to make. Can we make it? The people look, it's been a year that we searched. So here's the deal. I understand you looking at Florida League of Cities and other areas to actually help us with it. But our HR, when we ask for guidance, at this point, you're the person. You are the point person because we can't go no further. There are relationship issues. There's, and nobody else want to say it, there's relationship issues that we have to address. And if we don't address them, guess what? We won't have a city manager. Or the other day, at the end of the meeting, our intern got up and said, I can't do this. Let's address those things. Let's address them and go forward. It's not about these hires right here. It ain't about policy changes because we know that policy changes, it should come through us if it's significant already. So we're not asking for anything new. And what you guys are saying with red fans is what's happened. Okay, I'm done.
And that is the next item on the agenda, so we were getting to this. I think we had to come.
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor.
1 minute.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
may I help clarify just one thing that they brought up about the 22 positions? At the end of the budget, we got rid of a number of those positions and we only had 10. So there are only 10 positions.
Exactly.
Remember when we did the amendment that we did, we left 10, not 22. Just reminding everybody. Okay? So I think y'all forgot.
Well, no,
And
we
then, wait, one more thing and I'll be done. I'm just bringing it up because it was mentioned. I just want clarity. Yes, we did start with 22, but you remember you all told us no. So we came back, we did the budget amendment and that everybody voted on. And we ended up with 10 positions in the budget that we're living in right now. And of those 10 on this 27 right here, I went and checked it just now. Of the 27, 8 of them are on here of the 10. So hopefully that'll help.
Okay, Commissioner McCaskill.
Thank you. And again, thank you for your expertise in reminding us that it was 10. But that was the purpose of calling the HR specialist up here, who I indicated and identified 27. So again, we're not perfect, but we do lean on staff's expertise to help guide us. And with that being said, I want to ask a question about the attorney's position. Is it her position in her job description to give us guidance in certain things as we're up here as a governing body?
Or the attorney is for legal. You ought to get legal guidance.
Advice.
Yes.
You can give us guidance in the process of what we're doing as far as this interim city manager stuff, right? The things that you've researched allegedly, Ms. Jones came up here and researched, isn't it your role to help give us some guidance in that process as well? Am I correct?
What the city manager, that
Give us guidance in that process.
in the process of the city manager, is that what you're
In the
asking?
process of hiring. I think she's asking.
Well, in that process of the hiring of the city manager, actually, Mr. West and myself became the faces of it. Yes, yeah.
At what point, I remember, at what point in the process? We talked about it the last time. Are we okay, or do I need to wait before I ask those questions about moving on?
I think we need to get to that point in the agenda, but let Ms. West.
Can we bring, Mayor, and I think, because there were if I heard some side chatter, I want people to know that the reason Jonathan walked out was because we were moving or transitioning into the conversation about the city manager. He did not walk out because he was angry. He did not walk out he was walking out because we were transitioning into the conversation about city manager. That's why he walked out.
Thank you for clarifying that, Commissioner Campbell.
Before you move on to that next agenda item, there is just a little bit more clarification so I can properly advise the planning board. Quasi legislative matters, which include all future land use changes, are policy making by definition.
But doesn't it have to come before us?
It does, and so I need to know, do we continue with those future land use changes?
Ultimately, it comes back to us.
It does. It goes to the planning board for a recommendation and then comes to us for a final decision. And I think the question is, does Ms. West, does the planning board continue that process? For the moratorium,
Yes, I just need some guidance so we can either
move
continue.
on or not?
Correct.
So do we, again, for clarification, just so we're all transparent, giving the right direction, is that something the planning board should continue in Ms. West and then bring it to us for final decision making?
I don't have a problem.
If they're already in the process, let's go ahead.
Well, some of them aren't. Okay, some of them are coming, forthcoming, they're not in the process yet.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, thank you. That's what we need to hear.
For the
Do we
sake
need
of
to vote?
clarity, I would
sake
love a
of-
motion.
One motion. Okay,
I believe we're making the same motion over and over and over.
but for the sake of clarity.
That's not a change in the procedure or policy that has already been there. We're not making a change in that. We're making the ultimate decision. It still comes before us. We're not making changes to any of what the policies and procedures that are already in play.
Okay, but I think the word moratorium is what has prompted some of this. It makes it sound like it's across the board, but again, if it's just going to make this workable and move forward, can we please have a motion? Yeah.
We have.
Okay, I'm just making sure that we go through that process. Commissioner Boren,
Yes, and I think this, speak to Mr. Mr. Mann, is it, what's your last name, sir? Mr. Mann? Yeah. Man, yeah, this, to speak to your point, in terms of why we're here, trying to get this city manager role filled in almost a year. We initially, when Mr. Holmes were the city manager at the time, we had a search during that time. They brought forth candidates that the commission didn't feel would lead this city the way that we thought they should, because we only came back with two candidates, and we had a unanimous vote that would not, we would not move forward with those two candidates. So the next process, we got a search firm. We hired a search firm and Slavin. So that moves us about 5 to 6 months out. So during that process, it was flawed. So the commission decided to do away with that process because the process was contaminated. That puts us right here where we are right now. And so without getting into any details, I think that would be the way we need to handle this, to not dive deep into the weeds. That put us here. And so we're trying to move this process forward. In my opinion, the process should take 90 days, in my opinion, and that will put us in the February 14th timeframe. This is the commission's hire. So it's not a motion, but I think we need to, I got some things that's coming in terms of another search firm that we could use that is a very good vetted firm. And 90 days, I think, is a good time frame. It'll put us around February 14th, 16th timeframe. So that's what my motion would be in terms of trying to move the city forward. That means the advertising to hiring. That's what I would, would put forth. So that's all I have.
okay, at this point, it seems like we've already segued into B, which we hadn't opened up yet, the city manager.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. City manager vacancy. So at this point, Ms. Jones, can you just tell us, since the termination of Mr. Slavin Associates contract, where we're at right now?
So since that termination of the contract with Mr. Slavin, our direction from the commission was to contact Florida League of Cities to see if they could provide any service. So in that contacting them, Ms. West, Ms. West and I, we were given a name, Ken Parker, which we sent all a memorandum to you all stating what his advisement was on our next steps forward in the process. So we outlined all of our conversation with him as to you all have all of the copies at this point of all resumes that were submitted. There is no more resumes that have been received from Slavin. There's no advertisement that's being done from the city standpoint because we don't have direction
But the job closed
on the 29th.
The 29th was our first review. It didn't say that it's supposed to close on the 29th.
So we didn't get, okay. So there was no direction from the commission because we weren't advertising the city manager position on our website as long as Slavin had it. There was no direction to start advertising from internally that position. The direction was to make sure we had all of the applications received from Slavin, which he did. He gave us all of them and you all have copies. The commission that requested hard copies, I did provide those. Everybody else got electronic copies. The steps forward was provided by the senior advisors, which we expressed and gave you a link and everything so you could look at, what they actually do as to how to move forward. Since that memorandum, staff, myself, Ms. West, unless you've received, I don't think she's received anything that I haven't, don't have any more clarity or direction on what we are supposed to do because with you guys, like you say, that's your hire. So until you all vet through the 21 you have and said, these are 10 that so I don't know what the direction is going to be for us.
Commissioner Campbell?
So again, I think there has been a play on our words. And I think there's been there's been some misinformation that has been put out.
Okay.
We just had this conversation as far as where we were. We made the decision to have you all step in the interim. Now we are what it appears or what it's being painted to be when you say you have no direction from the commission, it hasn't been brought before us again until today. To have the conversation about the direction and about the discussion and where we want to go. So a play on words is always important to make sure that there's clarity that this is the first time we've had that conversation. And as a result, even in our last few meetings, I specifically asked, what remaining budget do we have that was left over from Slavin so that we would know how much money, because I would want to stay within that allocated amount so that we won't become a burden on the city. So again, when we are having these conversations, let's be completely transparent that, and I'm not playing this on you, but we just got this amongst us. And if we would not have this meeting today, it would have been on the December 14th board meeting for discussion and moving forward.
Wait a minute. Okay, Commissioner McCaskill, please.
Is it correct to say that you did receive some direction though, as it relates to those applications?
It was to make sure you all had electronic copies.
So it is correct to say.
Yes, so you got that. But I mean,
Prior
moving,
to us getting the electronic copies, did you receive directives regarding the application? From
No.
council at any point? As to how you were to transfer those applications to her?
she has copies of the
How did she
applications
receive them?
electronically
How,
from me.
and she gave you the directive?
No, you all gave me
The
the directive.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But she told you to email them to her. And then you were receiving applications from Slavin at one point.
Yeah.
At last minute, but she had got some directly from him, am I right?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. All of the, okay,
Jones.
all of the
please.
applications from the first meeting we had, I think in October, or the last meeting, I think it was the 26th when Slavin was here, or the one before when he wasn't. I received all of the applications I requested from Slavin. He sent me 19. A couple of days later, he sent me the additional 2 that they received after the 26th meeting. I think he was here. Then he sent me additional 2 that he received after. And that comprised of the 21 applications. Now, I don't know of any applications that Mr. Slavin sent directly to Ms. West. They were all sent directly to me.
Okay.
I forwarded them to Ms. West as well as to you all.
So again, I want us to just be, come on, y'all, we got to get this together. In order for us to, absolutely. But I think at this moment, I just don't want it to become a word game. I don't want it to become a blame game, because at this point, that's what it is. And I think that's where the confusion of our citizens is coming from, because it looks as if there is not a cohesive force that is sitting up here trying to move this city forward. And that is a lie. And in order for us to correct this ship, are we prepared tonight to have the conversation? Because again, I requested information that I have yet to receive. And as a result of that, I am not comfortable with having the discussion or direction to move forward with this specific. We have an intern who's doing what he does. I think in order for us to have this conversation, we need all of the information to be before us.
So I think the basic information you're requesting now is the total cost paid to Slavin to date.
Because we're gonna have to take in consideration if we want to bring somebody in. We're gonna have to take in consideration if we want to do it in-house. What we saw before, in-house did not work for us. So therefore, there's a whole lot that we have to take in consideration. And as for me, Commissioner Justin Rashad Campbell Sr., y'all like that senior part, I am not in a position to make it, because again, if there's funding, I don't want to put this city in a financial bind because of where we are and the decisions that we made to cancel or to fire our person. But then again, in order for us to effectively move forward, scratch that whole we don't have direction from the commission, because you didn't give us the opportunity to gather the information to give you direction or to have a discussion. And the way that the community perceives it is that it's different. So we got to clear that up before we can move forward.
From what direction? Okay, from what you all spoke to have us do, Commissioner Borum, contact the league. This is coming from.
No, okay. Scratch that. This was last Thursday. We're talking about as a result of.
And you asked for funding from Ms. Carty on everything that we had already paid Slavin.
Correct.
And the rest of part of that conversation was you were going to obtain someone from the outside that would.
That was not because I just said I wanted to make sure that we did not become a financial burden before we made the decision to, if we were to bring in someone to continue, or if we was going to do it in-house. That was the direction.
Okay. So the in-house part of, go ahead.
Okay. Commissioner
So
Borum.
yes, just like Commissioner Campbell did say, I mean, he specifically asked for the budget number.
He did.
That was supposed to come before us before we could make the decision. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The other key point was that I did ask for y'all to reach out to the league. And I also said, okay, I got some information I'm going to be getting from Green Cove Springs, their search firm, which is a very good vetted search firm that we could use. And so I stated that as well. If you go back on, it's on the record. So we don't have a number, and the budget leftover funds for moving forward. But I just caution to say that we really don't need to try to restrict, because we're picking a city manager. So we don't want to just say, okay, we don't want to, if it's a few more $1,000s that we don't want to spend, we need to make sure that we vet this process right. The other key thing is I asked for the city manager to stay on the agenda and not be dropped off. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and so we're asking for these things for specific reasons. The other reason I had when we talked about it didn't work internally, my pause is that we do not need to have our HR or our city attorney as part of that, because there could be influence. There could be influence as it relates to maybe the process or anything. So that's the reason why I wanted to keep everything clean. Let's use the outside services and let them give those applications directly to us. So there's no hands in play here.
Absolutely.
That's what I asked for. And that's on the record, Sonny, please put that on the record.
Make that form of
Well,
On the record.
Commissioner McCaskill didn't want to speak to. Can we do that, please? Commissioner McCaskill.
Do we have all the information before us tonight that we need and not put before us at the last minute so that we can effectively move forward with this evening? So that we can make good, informed decisions.
I think, again, what I'm hearing is that we are still waiting for the final number. I know that we were at 11,000 for Mr. Slavin and then plus
Yes.
whatever travel was.
Okay, so therefore, if I may, the total amount that was actually approved, from what I can understand, per the search services agreement with Slavin was 23,629. And we've spent actually, and there may be more because I think there was an additional invoice that has not yet been paid. So I would say the invoice not yet paid of about 1,200 or something of that nature. So that would be about 13,000. Okay, so therefore we have approximately 10,600 to $11,000 remaining in that ballpark of the original 23,600.
I have a question.
Yes.
We have spent money, and that 11,000 did yield 21 applicants. So, and we received them from HR. Can we look through those and eliminate or validate anybody that we want to bring in for interviews? If it's none, that's cool, but at least go through the process and say, okay, we want the top 3 or top 4, we may consider interviewing them. The rest we could cut bait, and if we need to start over, we have it at 10,000. But how does that sound? Or have everybody already looked over them? If everybody looked over and don't feel that the quality that you want, let's say that, and we can move on. Then we will be giving Ms. Jones proper direction of where we're going to be in this process. This process just have been going on way too long. And I'm with Commissioner Bowen. I'm not going to tell you. I think we have to remove you two out of this process due to the fact that you're a direct report to someone who's actually in the running for this job. That's just it's just keep the integrity up in this process. Okay. So that's one. We get that one clear. But we're going out though.
Also, I still believe that even at this moment, we have to have someone to step in and be that voice or be that person. Because again, if we speak of influence, and I'm not saying we already have somebody that works for Ms. Jones, she works for. So who, if they're not going to be the person that's carrying this torch, who is going to be the person that carries the torch?
Commissioner Bowen just addressed that. He reached out to someone that's willing to help us already.
So the reason why I asked for the funding amount was because when we reach out to these person, is that person going to carry us from where we are now to the end, or are we going to start fresh? So those are the kind of conversations that before we give ultimate direction, that we have to have those conversations, because he's reached out to somebody doesn't mean that's who we want to roll with.
Well, we already rolled with someone. We have applications. So
I
are we going to
understand.
vet those? Let's do first things first. So if we do that, then we'll go forward.
As far as protocol, I want to make sure that protocol, we just can't assume that him reaching out to someone is following the proper protocol. Like, would we have to put it back out for RFP?
That's what my question was.
Well, what about my suggestion? You asked the extra, but my suggestion is review the applications that we have currently, that's over 20, and then let's make a determination. If they're quality applicants that we want to interview, we take the top 4 or 5. If they're not, we move on. But it's no sense in saying, we're going for a search firm prior to us really deciphering through the ones that we already have. We currently have some, and we already have a process, to be honest with you, that's still that first interview group that we interviewed. Have they been given a "you're not selected" letter? Nope, we haven't finished it. That's the thing. We have not even finished the very first survey.
They gave a letter stating that the city of Palatka had fired Slavin and that.
Not that.
He's talking about the first group.
When you apply for a job,
All of,
you're gonna look for.
yes, sir. All of the candidates that we interviewed, when you all determined that you weren't moving forward with any of them, did receive. They
You're
did.
not selected letter?
Yeah, are you not selected? Yes, they did.
So guess what? Some of those applied again. You're aware of that?
Which they
I
can.
am.
They have the right to do that. I'm going to open up the floor to public comment because people are waiting. Commissioner, Reverend Flag, excuse me.
I do have to leave. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. Perception is reality. And regardless of what y'all do and what you don't do, what we are seeing is dysfunction. We're seeing that. It's crystal clear. And the only people that can fix that is the 5 of you all. Unless you all fix the disconnect between the legislators and the administrators of our city, your meetings will be 4-hour marathons. This is unacceptable. I'm not putting y'all down. I'm not condemning you. I can't talk to y'all as a group unless we in the sunshine. I need you all to know, and I'm not going to get up in your face and say, been there, done that, and I've got a magic wand and I can make some things happen. But unless you all strengthen the relationship that you have right now with your interim administrator, and you all meet with your city attorney, your city interim city manager, HR, finance, before y'all have every single meeting, you're going to have all of this dysfunction. I'm just making it plain. When I served as the mayor of the city of Palatka for 11 years, this is not how we did this. I need you all. I'm depending on you all. This has to stop. If you all have already decided that the interim city manager is not a candidate, tell him so he'll know that he's not in the process. If you think that's what has muddied the waters, quit getting on the merry-go-round.
Okay, don't do that, please. Don't do that,
Please
please.
don't. I'm not up here to grandstand. I'm trying to help these legislators get out of this quicksand because that's what you're in. And I'm telling you, all this extra talking y'all are doing is not for public meetings. One at a time, have to meet with the city attorney, the city manager, finance before every meeting, and y'all need to schedule it and make it happen so that when you all come out, you still don't know what each other's thoughts are until you come, but your staff will have the direction. And those that you don't trust, they don't belong here. I rest my case, and I apologize for having to leave, but I do have to leave because of another commitment. Thank you for listening to me. Please, again, don't take this out of context. I'm not looking for any applaud from anybody. I just want to see our city soar like an eagle and march like a soldier. Thank you.
Next, Yvette Jones, please. I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner McCaskill.
Just a follow-up to what the comment that Pastor Flag just made. That is something that we've asked for previously. Just had the opportunity to have one of those meetings prior to the last meeting. So I absolutely agree with him that we should have those type of meetings. I actually informed the council and the interim city manager that of that's something that I would like to do moving forward. So we do need to do that. However, we need to you all need to make yourselves available so that can happen for us, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, we did have public comment open, so I'd like to. Commissioner
I
Campbell.
want to make it clear that because the conversation was brought up, and I feel like it needs to be addressed with regards to if we feel that Jonathan is a viable candidate. I've had conversations with Jonathan.
What? Shh.
I don't, my mic is on and it's.
Okay, if everybody stops talking though, please, that would be great.
I'll wait until you, thank you. I'll wait until you close public comment to
Yes,
have
that's
this discussion.
It's open. Ms. Jones?
Okay, so again, I am happy that y'all are having this meeting because it seems like this conversation is needed. And I, for one, appreciate all of your passion for your job and for doing what's right for this city, because that's what we need. I know that in one of the previous meetings, I think it was the last meeting, y'all talked about team building, and it kind of alludes to what Flag was saying, that there is some dysfunction. And we do, as a city, as this city commission, need to work on that. There's a book by Patrick Leonce, I think that's his last name. It's called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And those dysfunctions, and I'm gonna say it, I see it right here, and we need to work on it. It's first, the foundation, trust. You have to trust one another. And in the 5 dysfunctions is absence of trust. It's a fear of conflict, which we see, a lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. And what we have to do, and I say we because I'm part of this city and I'm part of y'all too. So I want us to like Pastor Flag say, be better together, like Commissioner ex-commissioner Miss Brown used to say, because we have to be better together. We talking about unity and coming together, and we got to come together while we're here together. And so when you talk about team building, I think y'all have to try to understand each other. You have to know how to communicate with one another. And there's several different things that we've done in our organizations. Like we've done I don't know if y'all have heard the Intrinsics True Colors assessment. That's like, it's a way to kind of identify each other's personality. And it helps you learn how to communicate with each other. Like if you're a green, you know how to communicate with an orange. And it's very helpful. It sounds kind of elementary, but it's a good assessment. There's also the Myers-Briggs assessment. These are personality assessments that help you understand each other. And so I think before we start bringing on new people, like we getting a city manager, we got to be on one accord. And I want to see that for our city, because it is disheartening when you see the meetings go a certain way. And I know we all have passion, and I know we all want to make this city better, but we got to try to understand each other and try to come together. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Vickers, Askew Vickers. Look. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Gibbons? Name and address, please.
Tarsha Givens, 225 Stillwell Avenue, Palatka, Florida. Good evening, everyone. Madam Mayor, our commissioners, our attorney, and staff that are present, and everyone that's here. Good evening. I've been attending the city commission meetings, and I'm learning since March of this year. And I can honestly say that I've been present, and I myself have requested information that I have yet to receive at times. And I've witnessed the commissioners ask for information, and they have received bits and pieces. I think one of the things I asked for that I still haven't received yet is the ARPA funds budget from last year, and I guess the proposed budget for this upcoming year. Those are some things that I asked for. When it comes down to dealing with the vacancy of city manager, I want to speak more so from the point of view of it being a fair hiring process. Like there are candidates that have applied, they send in their resumes and applications, which I myself have requested a public comment, public record of, and I have those in my possession online. But my point is, how long do you think these candidates are going to wait? And I feel like this process, it should not be drawn out. It's real simple. Commissioners, you can pick your top and then make a decision. I don't see us drawing this out. Now, I know I'm not a commissioner, but I don't see this process being drawn out to February, because it's a simple process. This is the one hire that you can make. I think some of the things that need to be considered is the fact that the process was tainted. We need to take into consideration honesty, integrity, and being a person of our word, because when our intern, Mr. Jonathan Griffith, he decided that he did not want to apply for this position. He said that up front. Then he came in towards the end and decided, oh, by the way, I do want to apply for this position. And I feel like that is definitely tainted, because I have spoken with some of the applicants, and they also feel that this process has been tainted, because when you can go online and check out my LinkedIn, social media, things of that nature, and you are applying for the same job that I'm applying for. So my competitor is checking out my competition. That's not right. That's not fair. So I think if he was interested in the job, he should have said that up front and should have been forthcoming from the very beginning. That has allowed this process to be tainted. And I don't know what we're waiting on. What are we waiting for? You have the power to select your top, 19 applicants? You can pick your top 5 or however many you want out of 19. Let's get it on. Let's make this happen. Oh, I got a few more seconds. Honesty, integrity going forth, I think is very important. Y'all are like family. Y'all have your days where you get along. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to disagree. Just always be respectful, which I feel like, we can all work on that. But for the most part, let's get this city manager in place. Thank you.
Mr. Spell?
Good evening. My name is Jacob Spells, 5019 Creel Avenue, Palatka, Florida, just across from the junior college. If we would just stop for a moment and think, this meeting would never been held tonight if it wasn't for the city manager hiring. The plan in the beginning was drawn out for Mr. Griffin to be the city manager as of this night, but the things didn't fall in place. So everything now is going wrong. You're bringing up everything that you can bring up because this man is not city manager. He was groomed to be the city manager. That was the plan in the beginning. So now this man have tainted the hiring process for the way that he carried and conducted himself with the people that you had hired to look for a city manager. He got in bed with him. We learned that several meetings prior to this one. Now, this man should be disqualified for even talking about being the city manager. Because in the beginning, he lied and said that he did not want the position in the beginning. I guess you all can recall that. I saw it in the paper. Now, he wants the job. How can you trust someone like that? So you all, the 4 of you, not 5, come to the conclusion of finding somebody, get somebody to find somebody and get your applications in, let that pick out and he qualifies for the job, hire. Now, let this city manager pick his interim to work with him. Any administration come forward, they get their people that they can work with. Because Griffin will never, as long as the sun shines, work with any other city manager, woman or man. Let's face it. Because he wants the job. And if he stays in his position, you all should take him, put him in a different position. Because he's always going to cause conflict if he stays where he is. You all have the power. You've been disrespected so many times. You have the power, use it. Don't be crows sitting on the fence of the power line. Do what you voted to do. You're not here to satisfy the city manager, the attorney, anybody. You are here to satisfy and do what the people elected you to do. They took their time, put forth that had babysitters and whatever to go out and vote for you.
Mr. Spell, finish up, please.
Okay, do the job.
And I think there does need to be some clarification. I've heard the process was tainted many times. I think Ms. Jones can speak to this. Once Mr. Griffith applied, he no longer had any contact with Slavin and no longer received any information. And I think that's a misconception that seems to be passed around. It's not a defense of anybody, but it's a fact. Could I finish, please? Huh? And he also, anybody can apply for a job whenever they choose to, as long as the job posting remains open. Once it closes, that's different. Go ahead, Commissioner Campbell.
I understand that. And again, I wanted this process to be clean, but you said that he had no contact. It was days before it closed. And anybody would know, I said in several meetings that I did not have a problem because everyone has the ability to change their mind. But if perception is reality, anyone from the outside looking in, anyone from the inside looking in can see that the process was tainted. It may not have been intentional, but if you go back to the meeting when Slavin was here, prior to him even being here, I asked Jonathan not to make any statements because I did not want him to put himself in a position that would allow it to appear as if he had the upper hand in this process. I said, at all respect, to give Slavin the opportunity to come and clear up the mucky waters. When he came, the water only got muckier.
That I concur with. I do concur.
So as this being our hire as a city manager, but having him as an employee of the city, I felt the need to make sure that I told him as our employee, don't say nothing. Is he a viable candidate? I don't have a problem with him. As long as he goes through the process that everybody else had to go through. If we get to the decision of he's at the top, if he doesn't qualify based on what the direction was we gave as a commission, then we address it. But to be premature and want us to say if we feel that he's not the candidate for this position is very premature. We had at that time 21 people where Mr. Slavin himself said there were at least 2 to 3 candidates that were qualified for the position of city manager prior to Jonathan submitting his application. So again, if we want to be transparent, if anybody wants to understand the process of how we got here today, it's because the water was mucky when the person we hired to come in and to who we entrusted to lead this process, he tainted the process because he didn't follow his own direction. At that moment, Jonathan should not have had to withdraw himself. Slavin should have come to the commission, stated that we have an inside person that is interested in the job, this, that, and the third. He did not give us the justice of having that. It was put on the agenda as an update. It came to us as a recommendation. That's where I immediately said, let's stop. Because again, if we want to play on the words, perception is reality, my phone began to ring immediately after that meeting. So yes, he did apply. I don't care that he applied. As long as the process from that point forward was clear, and if it was understood, I don't believe we'll even be here right now having this conversation. But as we move forward and is having these conversations, again, transparency is the thing that we need to make sure that we focus on. And Mayor, as a leader, as the parliamentarian of these meetings go according to how you allow them to go at the end of the day. So again, it's not that there is a form of discourse. Where there is a lack of leadership, it opens doors for confusion, conflict, decreased productivity. And that's where we are.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. I know, and that was my fault for interjecting. Ms. Kitchens?
Allegri Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. Thank you, Mr. Campbell, for clarifying that. I do believe, first of all, the process wasn't, I don't believe the process was tainted. And for people other than Mr. Campbell, who explained it beautifully, for people to stand here and say it was tainted, it sounds like Jonathan is a crook and it sounds horrible. It was not tainted. Mr. Campbell is correct. Mr. Slavin didn't act, in my opinion, and I don't think in Mr. Campbell's opinion, he didn't act like he should have acted. He gave information to other applicants that he should not have given to them. Then he came and didn't come to a city commission meeting. So, and Jonathan, anybody has a right to change their mind. Everybody in this room has made a comment at some time in their life and they changed it. So yes, he has a right. And again, like Mr. Campbell said, if Jonathan's the most qualified, fine. If he's not, so be it. You all have 21, I think it is, candidates. Don't go out and hire another firm. If you don't want a citizen, and there was a citizens search committee. I was on two of them along with Pastor Flagg and former city attorney Ed Hedstrom and Cynthia Asia and a bunch of folks. We did a darn good job. We selected a city attorney and then the commission decided to go with what they wanted and they got what they got. But that's neither here nor there. But again, I think you all look at those candidates. You all send into the HR your top choice, your 5 that you want, or 3 or 2. Pick out the ones that you want. And then when you get however many, interview them. But if you don't like them, then start over again. The city manager process always takes time because it is an important job. And yes, the city can actually run without the city manager because the department heads are good, but you need a city manager. And the other thing, with what happened at the last meeting, if public comment had been allowed, I would have advised you that you needed a motion to reconsider, but public comment was not asked for. If you all had done what I asked months ago at the beginning of this year, I suggested that you all have a workshop where you were taught Robert's Rules of Order, because all of you all need to know Robert's Rules of Order, not just the mayor, every one of you do. If you had gone through with that, that would have been great. Then you all would have known what you needed to do. But I was told by some of you at the time, you all already been trained and you knew. Well, hello. The other thing is the city attorney, and I've been watching city commission and attending for 36 years. I was on the commission for 9 years. The city attorney always advises the commission when they're starting to go off the rail and get in trouble, be it Robert's Rules of Order or legal or something that they could be sued for slander or something like that. At the last meeting, the city attorney is trying to give advice, and one of the commissioners, I won't call his name, it wasn't you, Mr. Campbell, told the city attorney that you're only here to answer legal questions if we ask. You're not here to give us advice. Probably if she'd been able to give advice, she might have been able to weigh in at the time and tell you all something. And the other thing is, remember this, anytime when you all are talking and said what you did at the last meeting, you got to remember, everybody in this room and hundreds of other people in the city, we saw that video. We were either in the meeting or we saw the video. I would suggest, and I'm not being nasty, I like all of you guys, go home tonight, look at the last meeting's video, look at tonight's video. When I was on the commission, I looked at the videos to see what I could improve at the next meeting, to see how I responded. I would suggest you all do that. And I would also
wrap it up, please.
Anyway, I would just suggest you all just be very careful, okay? Thank you.
Ms. Davis?
Annie Davis, 420 Kirby Street, Palatka. I want to first start by saying to the commissioners, thank you for your unpopular action. I do agree that it was misunderstood, there was misinformation. And when I came earlier asking for the root cause, I think a lot of that information was shared. So I personally want to say thank you as a citizen of Palatka, Florida, because if it had not been for that brave decision, no matter who disagreed, we could never move forward. So I want to personally thank you. Communication, information, preparation, transparent discussion, and timely discussion, accountability, responsibility, roles need to be understood and enacted. I do want to say to the commission, I hope you feel empowered to bring up your concerns faster and timely, even if nobody understands, or even if it's just an inkling, because I think that would help us move forward faster. Perception is reality. I don't think anyone was calling Mr. Griffith a crook. I heard the process was tainted or perceived tainted. As a citizen, I perceived it, and I just moved here. It does not take a rocket scientist. So what I'm admonishing the commission to do is start fresh, whatever that fresh looks like, whether it's existing resumes, but through a process. I also want to remind everyone that the city manager is hired by the commission, not elected by the community. And what I'm hearing is rhetoric that's common when people are campaigning. This is not a campaign. Processes exist, procedures exist, Robert's Rule of Order exists. And I don't think that we know every applicant for every position. So I don't know why the city manager position is any different, because it is a hired position. So I hope we can keep things in the confines. And yes, we may have emotion, but emotion never usurps processes and procedures. Feel how you feel, speak what you want, but it has no bearing on an existing and approved process or procedure. We need to keep things in the right context. So I thank everyone for all of our passion, because I think it shows we care about the city. And I want to thank you for the job you do, because until you walk in somebody's shoes, you don't know what it's like. We can roll on one flat tire, but not two when you're riding a bicycle. Thank you.
Shan Puritan, please.
Shan Purinton, 121 Pinal Church Road, Palatka, Florida, 32177. I really don't want to elongate this meeting, so I simply will say this. Perception is reality. Words are powerful. Your nonverbals are 93% of your message. And so sitting out there watching what I watched, it hurts. It really hurts. And I know Jonathan because I was like Allegra on the Citizens Committee that advised the commissioners back when Carl Flack was mayor. And we went through a set of questions for the applicants that were narrowed down. I don't know by whom, but there were 5. And we met and we then recommended to the commissioners, and it was a very smooth process. You ultimately certainly make the decision, but there are ways to make that process easier on you and certainly on everybody else. I will say this about Jonathan. I had no idea till tonight that this whole issue of being tainted was part of it. Now I understand what was going on for you. I think, again, it's a misperception. I've known Jonathan since he was hired. He has worked diligently in all the roles that he's been in public works, etc. As a volunteer, we depend on people in your staff to support us so that we can support you and the city. He has done an exceptional job. He always communicates clearly. If it can't be done, he lets us know what can't be done. So that's all I need to say. And I do thank you for your service.
Thank you. Mr. Petrucci?
Joseph Petrucci, 905 Tierra Woods Drive, Palatka, Florida. I'm going to be hopefully short. I think you should follow what Commissioner Jones is, what he stated before. You spent the money getting 21 applicants. You should look at those people and see if there's anybody that is valid. As far as the process involving Mr. Griffith, there, you have a job description, you have a process that you're going to follow. He's no different from any other applicant. If you look at it strictly by that, don't have an emotion involved. You just look and say, these are the requirements we need for our city manager. Who meets those requirements the best? Like I said, look at the 21 people that you got. I'm not sure if he's included in that group, but if he is, at least look them all over and make your decision that way. Then, if you look at those 21 people and you say, these are not quite what we need for this city, then you follow Mr. Vorum's suggestion and use a different agency. But you spent the money, you might as well get some benefit out of it. Thank you.
Ms. Vetlik?
Annie Swedlik, 511 North Third Street, Palatka. I remember years and years ago, and I don't know the name of the company, but that was a company that was looking for a city manager. And I think that the city paid a good amount of money for that. And like 2 or 3 city managers we had that were not even good. I mean, they were like fired after a couple of months. And here you pay this agency thousands and thousands of dollars, and you still can't come up with a good city manager. Now, if this Slavin thing doesn't work out, you have about $11,000 left. Well, I don't think that will cut a bill for a new agency to do it. So to me, it's common sense. If there is a guy working here that does his job right, and he is a good city manager or assistant city manager, why not hire him? I mean, why not? You know, why looking at all these different people and paying all this much money and you still don't get a good one? Just hire the one that does this job and has already years and years of experience in the city. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for public comment on this particular agenda item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Commissioner Borum, you've had yours up for a bit.
Yes, but yes, just going back to the thing as it relates to, it was a question about the commission and staff and team building. Well, Commissioner Jones together this thing as it relates to a team building exercise that we currently have in play right now, and it's been in play for some time. And even during that process, the request of the commission was not honored to the way it should have been as it relate to who and where the location that we were going. If you go back to the last meeting, you would see that information in there as well. But so that's in play. In terms of meetings and being apprised of what's on the agenda, I have been asking, and the city attorney can tell you, because I had a meeting with her and also with our interim city manager right now in terms of transparency and having people at the pre-agenda meeting, because we need to be there to understand. We don't have to talk, but we need to know when things are materializing for the agenda. It's very important that the commission knows what's happening. The process, the way it works right now, we got the mayor and the city manager who helped put the agenda together. Generally, it's supposed to be the city manager's role to put the agenda together with the department heads. So therein lies a problem where information dissemination and information being available to the rest of the commission. So that's my second point. The other thing that came out of the last meeting was that the commission didn't trust the staff. That is so far from the truth. So far from the truth. There's no truth in that at all. So I don't like when people label me and put things in my mouth, because if anything about me, I have 100% integrity, respect, and humility for everybody. And I want the same thing. That's my comment.
Thank you. So in regards to the hiring process rather for the city manager position, how would we like to proceed? What is the input? We have several things on the table.
I would like us to proceed with the recommendation that came from Commissioner Jones.
A second.
I was going to clarify so that it's clear that we ourselves as commission, all 5 of us, review all the applicants that have been provided to us. We would give We give our top 5 of who we deem qualifies for that position. Now I want to ask for clarity at this point, because if we are removing the city attorney, and that's where my comment came in earlier, who serves as that liaison, or who's that person that we give our top 5 to help us select?
Can we look at, well, we do have the range rider, with the legal cities, they won't be here full time, but they can help guide us through the process. That's the range rider that they were talking about right now, correct?
The senior advisors through the FCCMA?
Yes.
Yes,
But
they're free.
But will we be, I'm asking, who do we give our top 5 to? Or we bring it back as an agenda item to identify our top 5. So it's in the sunshine, there's a level of transparency. So I'll restate my motion. I make a motion that we review the applicants that we have received, that at our next agenda meeting, which is December the 14th, that we have this as a discussion item on the agenda, whereas each commissioner will identify the top 5 candidates that they have, that they feel would like to move forward in this process.
Using the matrix that we.
Using the matrix system. No. Well, I won't say using the matrix. This is just to bring that matrix system was for once we got to the point of identifying the final. So moving forward, if I have 5, each person will bring their 5 up at that meeting, and then we'll come up with the process to move.
Okay, so that is your motion.
That's my motion.
I say.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, so it's to bring the top 5 to the next meeting, each of us bring our top 5 guests. Thank you.
Everybody's clear with that? Making sure.
Yeah, I'm clear.
Yes, I'm clear.
Okay, is there any further, we're on commission comments now. Is there anything further on commission comments? Anybody have anything further? Okay, with that, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.